All right, we're live. I'm Joshua Kemble. I am a full-time art director. I've done graphic design and illustration for about 20 years now. And when I'm not doing graphic design, illustration, or art direction, I am working on my graphic novels, which is what I'm going to be working on during this stream. So what I'm trying to do during this stream, the objective is to color page 67 of my graphic novel, Not Death But Love, The Strange Supernatural Story of Elizabeth Barrett Browning. And then when I'm done with that, I might play a round of Risk, which is a game that I've gotten really interested in. I started about a month and a half ago, and I went on Gary Hodges' stream this morning just to kind of hang out. He did a recap. I don't know if you guys saw about 2 streams ago. Gary joined us live from a convention in Arizona, and he did a recap on the Comic-Con and talked about how awesome it went and stuff like that. And I was playing kind of my morning game before I get into working. And this is a total nerdy thing, but I actually achieved a little goal on that game where I became a master by beating a master, which was kind of awesome. And I encourage you guys to check out Gary Hodges' channel. And you, especially, I don't know how many people are interested in like Risk because I'm a nerd. But for me, that's a huge thing because I eventually would like to be a grandmaster. It's ranked globally, somewhat similar to chess. And so becoming a master for me was not easy. If it's easy for you guys out there, that's cool. But I had to learn the strategy and stuff like that of the game to kind of get there. I'm barely there, but it was fun to get there, and it was kind of neat that happened on Gary's stream. And then Driving You Mad said, "Hi Josh, it's Jason. How you doing?" I am doing good. I am doing good. How are you? So basically what we're going to do today, right now, before I get into Risk, which I really enjoy, is obviously work on graphic novels and comics. So we're going to rock coloring page 67. And then if I have time after the fact, I might play a round of Risk, and we'll see if I can retain my master rank, or if I get owned like I did on a stream, I think the last stream on my channel, by a master and maybe lose that status. So we'll see. But anyhow, I'm going to get into it. We're going to draw and work on stuff. I hope you guys are working on projects, having fun, and having a good Sunday. I'm really excited about kind of getting into this and getting this page knocked out. And as nerdy as it is, I'm not much of a gamer. I've mentioned that before, but just today being able to be a master on this stupid game was really a fun little boost for my day. So that's a nerdy thing. But I can now say, at least for now, I am a master at Risk, which I think is pretty cool globally. So, all right. If I look like a homeless guy the way I'm dressed, it's been really chilly in the AV, and we're trying to save money a little bit in the house, and so we're not using our heater as much. And also that saves energy, so it's a little better for the environment and stuff like that. But that is why I look a little homeless today. The other reason is because I've been working all day. So I'm a little tired, but we're going to get through it. We're going to do some comics. And Driving You Mad, you are correct, sir. He said, "That beanie rocks, by the way." And he said, "Homelessness is the new posh." So there we go. I love it. All right, let's get into it. Oh, and I should mention I also have 2 graphic novels out. So if you like comics and you like indie comics, I have 2 graphic novels that are currently out. One is Jacob's Apartment, which is like if you took Eternal Sunshine for the Spotless Mind, put it in a blender with Ghost World, and you like the flavor of that, it might be right up your alley. It's a doomed romance story for basically ages like 16 and up, and it talks about two polar opposite roommates that through rough life circumstances find themselves drawn together. As they are drawn together romantically, their dreams and reality start interweaving in a very like slice of life kind of little photograph of a young first love kind of story. So that's Jacob's Apartment. That's available everywhere. And then there's Two Stories, which is my graphic novel. That's an autobiographical story about learning how to navigate depression, navigate the strangeness of a private religious institution, and kind of searching for faith and meaning in with the struggles that you both experience on the playground as a kid, juxtaposed with the struggles that we deal with mental illness and stuff like that as adults. And as it switches between those two storylines, it's done in two alternating styles. One is very childlike and what I like to call like a wonky Mary Blair style. And then the other is much more realistic, much more rendered and hatched and representational of life. So that's Two Stories. And that is available. And that is definitely not for kids. Like neither books are for kids, but Jacob's Apartment is like kind of middle grade and up. And then Two Stories is definitely for like college and above, like age range. So those are my two books. I'll probably play trailers for them, maybe as we get about an hour into the stream. But for now, enough of my jabbing. Let's get to comics. And while I'm working, if you guys are working on comics or your own thing, just let me know what you're working on, because it's very inspiring to hear what everybody's projects are as we're doing these things. As I've said on these streams, like one of the main functions I see this stream doing is hopefully keeping you company while you're working on your own personal projects, while you're working on comics and stuff like that. And hopefully by all of us working on comics and art together, we can inspire each other to achieve great things like becoming a master at Risk. Okay, so I still can't get over that, because I did not expect that to happen. And it was really funny that it happened on Gary's stream, because I looked like a badass, I think, if you play Risk. That game I played as perfectly as you can. And I don't always do that at all. I have games where I get like swept in like 2 seconds. I have games where I've made a miscalculation and paid for it in the end. And this game I calculated right, and it was awesome. Also, outside of just my Risk game playing on Gary's stream, Gary is just an incredible person, very insightful, very thoughtful, and had a lot of good things to say about a new comic convention in Arizona that sounded so good that I might actually make the trek up there next year and kind of join my homies in Arizona. Okay, that was 8 minutes now, and now we got to draw. So here's page 67, and I have page 66 where I've established the location and stuff like that, and this has already been colored. So what I'm going to do first is kind of import all the colors from this page to the next page. So I want to kind of eyedrop and fill. That's my goal today, is eyedrop and fill. Eyedrop and fill. How is life treating everybody this Sunday? I hope it's well. I know we got a few people watching. If you're watching, you want to chime in, or there's any questions you might have for me, or anything you want to share, any projects you're working on, just let me know in the chats. And in the meantime, I'm going to kind of rock and roll this page. So first, I'm going to kind of select. This is one of the things I've been working traditionally quite a lot. Like Two Stories was done full traditional. Jacob's Apartment was done mostly traditional. The lettering was on Jacob's Apartment was digital. This is kind of weird because it's so Two Stories was like completely traditional, including traditionally lettered. And then this is a really interesting one where sorry, my brain is getting a little distracted. So this has been an interesting one. I just realized I have to kind of clean up a little bit of what I did this morning. Maybe I was excited about becoming a master on Risk and didn't notice that little outside of the lines moment. But anyhow, so this has been interesting because I'm doing this completely digital, but I am also kind of digitally hand lettering it. So it's kind of like an interesting medium. But the nice thing about that is, like when I work traditionally, I usually do the panel borders and stuff like that all as one solid layer. So everything's on one drawing that I have to then clean up. When I was working traditionally with digital, then I would do that, but then the like for Jacobs, but the lettering I would just kind of add in over the art that was already done traditionally. But I didn't have like the luxury of just kind of selecting just this layer, right, which is kind of nice. So I like that about kind of working all digital on this particular project. I tend to fluctuate between digital and traditional on a lot of stuff. And I have for years, professionally been able to do both, and kind of shifted based on what the client needs or what I need and the story I want to tell. But in this case, I have been really enjoying working totally digitally. What is this? Gazbot said, I am a real bot. And then he said, searching through old hard drives for lost FI res files for a print order. And then Driving You Mad said, AI has gotten really good. I don't understand that. Oh, he's commenting on Gazbot. Got it. And then Gazbot said, did you just trace the backgrounds or the BGS? No shade if so, didn't know you worked that way. And then Driving You Mad said, I think the challenge of using digital is learning the programs. I don't really understand. I don't understand the question, sorry. All right, so we are going to merge this down and we're going to kind of continue and make some color going here as well. So this is my colors, right? Then this is my rendering, and this is my line layer, and this is my borders. Okay. So let's see what we can do. I'm going to basically grab my color from my previous page, my flat coloring. Gaz said I turned off the flat color layer. And it looked like there were photos underneath it. I have no idea what you're talking about. I mean, I get it, but yeah, no, this is my flats. Okay, so here we go. We're going to eyedrop this business right here. I want to have, let's see here. I want to have my eyeball here for, so we're going to color Elizabeth's eyes first. Flat coloring is kind of boring. It's kind of boring. Okay, so regardless, like when I start this kind of thing, I like to do the overall shape and then I lock the transparent pixels so I can kind of work outside of it. I then will, let's see here. I then, like in this case, it's left these areas as white, but I still want to color fill white underneath my text bubbles and stuff like that. So, and then what I will probably do is go in and maybe color fill all the white on each different part. So what I'm going to do is I like to work reductively when I'm coloring. A lot of people like working adductively, if that's even a word. A lot of people like to work where they're kind of like adding each color as they go. And as you'll see when I'm working on this method, I like to work where I'm isolating each color and reducing it from the equation. It's just kind of a different way of working. I fluctuate between the two, but on this, you'll kind of see my method of coloring is a little different than if I were going to shade it later, or if I were coloring inks because of the rendering and stuff like that that's on it. Let's see here. So we have got, okay, so now we have shading off. We have our line layer, right? We have this, and I think that's pretty much pretty good to go. Let's see. Okay, so I want to do I'm going to basically, like I said, I work reductively. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that anti-alias is off so that it doesn't, there were a few mess ups, as you can see on my previous page, where I screwed up. You see that little extra line? That's because of aliasing issues. And usually I'm not that sloppy, but that was passable in the end, so it wasn't an issue. But in general, when I'm flat coloring, I'm trying to avoid having aliased edges because that makes your lines look really blurry and your colors look really blurry. And so even though right now the gray tones that are above are definitely aliased, and as are my lines, because I wanted them to have that kind of hand done vibe to them, the aliasing or whatever is something that I want to avoid on the flat colors, so they look nice and sharp with the color over top. Driving You Mad said, "What are you working on, Josh?" Ah, good question. So I and also Driving You Mad said, "I'm trying to learn video editing. Right now, I use the basic one that came with Windows, but I'm interested in more advanced editors, just scared." Don't be scared. I would recommend check out Corey Kerr's channel on After Effects. I learned so much on After Effects from Corey that I use it in my workplace all the time for editing videos for social media and for conventions and stuff like that. After Effects, I think, is the best video program there is. There's also Premiere, which is a really good Adobe program as well, that I'm less familiar with. But as an illustrator and a designer, I think that After Effects is just like, it's a marriage made for artists, especially artists who are familiar with the Adobe platform. So if you're used to Illustrator, Photoshop, After Effects will be a very small learning curve, especially if you have experience like editing music, because as long as you're familiar with editing timelines and piecing to get things together, After Effects is great. And Corey will walk you through from the very beginning and give specifics on each method that you can do in After Effects, and you'll be amazed at what you're able to do. So I would highly recommend that. Okay, now to answer your second question about what are you working on, Josh? I am working on a graphic novel about the Brownings, about Elizabeth Barrett Browning and Robert Browning. And oh, I forgot to have continuous on. That's a week. I needed continuous off. Sorry about that. So it would select all of that specific color. which is a pain in the butt. Now we gotta re-isolate out these eyeballs. So I'm working on a graphic novel. I have the 2 graphic novels that I've done so far are books that I've written and illustrated. And while I was working on the edits for Jacob's apartment, I totally had. Oh, why am I taking Robert's eyeballs? That wasn't Robert's eyeball color. That's just Elizabeth's. And we have Elizabeth's eyeballs. Okay, that's good. So my sister had a really brilliant script that she had made while she was in college. And my sister has been a professional writer for a long time. Like she wrote and was the senior editor of our local newspaper for a while until having a kid and then retiring from working at the paper as the senior entertainment editor who got to review movies and write articles and stuff for a living, which is really cool. But she retired so that she could take care of her daughter, my son's cousin. So anyhow, she had this great script that she had written and worked years and years and years on doing research of Elizabeth Browning's letters. And it was this really fascinating take on the Brownings. Like there have been books and movies about the Brownings, and they usually focus just on their kind of forbidden romance and Elizabeth's relationship with her father, which was really tenuous. And frankly, they haven't been that good. I think the most known movie that was made about them was The Barretts of Wimpole Street, which is really inaccurate. But again, it's all about just these 2 young poets who chose to eschew her father's wishes and kind of eloped because they were in love, which is a great story, but it's not really much of a story outside of just kind of a cheesy love story. And my sister found all this cool stuff about Elizabeth Barrett Browning and how she had gotten really interested in spiritualism and seances. And there's twists and turns and characters that are really fascinating and interesting. And it's very like tense and suspenseful, and yet like very sweet and beautiful story that she had written. And she wrote it as a script, but like we had talked for years about potentially doing it as a comic. And when I was done with Jacobs, we had my literary agent told me that we had a couple of people who were interested in what I had to pitch, but weren't super into the genre of Jacob's apartment, but they loved the story and the art. And they were like, if you have anything else, send it to us. And we had gotten that from a lot of publishers. And so my literary agent was like, do you have any other projects? And this was like right after the COVID shutdowns. So we had like, I was working from home. There was a little bit of extra time. And there was like this weird kind of dead period where most of the edits for Jacob's apartment were done. And then it's just this sweet spot kind of waiting period between projects where I was like, you know what? Lavner and my sister has a brilliant script. I will do, 5 pages as a sample in a different style that will fit her story. And then we will, edit it so that it's good for comics. And you guys should represent her as well. And then we'll get a book deal with it. And luckily they read it and they agreed. Because I was like, also because it's my sister, I had to say like, trust me, this isn't just because it's my sister. Like, and in fact, if you don't like it, just be really honest about it. But it's like, this is a sincerely like amazing story. And I'm kind of surprised nobody's done it. And she's done such a good job at it. So they saw it, and I think they gave her better representation than I have. The second they read the script, because it's really good. It's really solid. She's a really good writer. And so, yeah, so I did the 5-page pitch, which is where like we built a pitch packet, which is like kind of like telling what market it's going to hit, your marketing plan, your marketing strategy, and then like kind of like all the stuff that you would have on the back matter of a book, but for publishers. And then like my 5-page sample of like, this is what it'll look like. And we got a book deal real quick for it. And so that's what I've been working on since. So I'm very excited about that because now I'm in, it's like a blessing and a curse because now I'm in a position where I need to finish this book. And I also need to finish Two Stories Book 2. So this year has been a blur of just kind of going to work, working as an art director, which I do for my day job. And then like just hoping I can kind of carve away pages, on this massive project. I feel like I did weird stuff with the selection on that skeleton, but we'll find out later. So I have deselected all the white in that panel from what I'm aware of. I think the windows should be white, so I'm going to deselect those. And let's see here. Gaz said, also your niece. Yes, my niece. Gary said, afternoon all. Afternoon, Gary. I just bragged to everyone about becoming a master, which is kind of goofy because, again, like I'm barely a master on it, and I could lose that ranking very quickly because it's a global ranking system. And so all it would take is me to have a game where I have a hard loss, and I might, go back down to expert. But I still bragged about it and told people to check out your stream. Also for your insights too, Gary. I'm not that risk obsessed yet. Anyhow, so yeah, that's the project. That was a long-winded answer, Jason, but hopefully that kind of answered your question about the project I'm working on. It's a very fascinating project. It's taken quite a bit of research to kind of figure out like the costuming and especially the locations. But, we'll get there. Slowly but surely. I feel like that's the marching orders of working in comics is just being able to say slowly but surely. And if Frank were here in the chats, I think Frank's probably off doing something. But if Frank were here, I could guarantee you he'd be like, hey, don't call me Shirley. Anytime. Frank is always on point with jokes. Okay. I'm here all night, guys. I'm here all night. Driving You Mad said that male character looks like he was that intentional. Well, I do use a ton of photo reference, and I posed as Robert, so there is going to be a little bit of a little bit of a similarity, and a lot of that is just using myself as photo reference. It inevitably, even if I modify it a bit, like his nose is different, his forehead's a little different, but yeah, it's definitely going to look quite a bit more like me, because yeah, I'm pulling from references of me. So that is why there's a little similarity there. So it's not an ego thing. It's just like a utility thing. Like I need to draw this character multiple times, and this character I will pose as. Save myself some work. All right, so we are getting the white parts. I know it seems kind of boring at this point, but when I color fill the next color, I think you'll see the utility of this method. I think this method of coloring is much more efficient for flatting than the way I used to do it, which would be like panel at a time, one chunk at a time. Which again, sometimes I'll get bored with this method and kind of switch back to the old school additive method. But I like this one quite a bit more, where you're kind of selecting all the things that are going to use one color and just kind of taking it out of your selection. And then on to the next color. And it's kind of a patient strategy, but it's kind of like a strategy where it starts very slow and very meticulous, and you're not seeing a lot of returns. And then, you know, it kind of creates exponential growth later on, because you start kind of reducing out all of the colors kind of at the same time. And it takes out a lot of the guessing that comes later, or like the having to go and select different colors later on, because you're doing everything that needs that specific color on the page all at once. If that doesn't make sense, just stay tuned and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. How's everybody's afternoon? It sounds like you are driving me mad. Jason is working on learning video editing, and I was recommending you check out Corey's After Effects tutorials, because they're very cool. Out of curiosity, what editing programs do you use? You know, Gaz, I'm curious what editing programs you use for your videos. Gaz, you're not off on your method. Gaz was saying he does a similar method, but uses the pencil tool to fill. So the reason the pencil tool is great is the same reason I was saying you want anti-aliasing clicked off. You want aliased lines. You want lines that when you zoom in, or aliased edges on your flats. When you zoom in, it's going to look like a step ladder, you know, with white or whatever color is next to the other color. And it's the two colors, and there's kind of like a step ladder of those colors between. And the beauty of the pencil tool is just automatically aliased, which is beautiful. So the pencil tool is actually really great if you're going to freehand your flats. It's also really great if you needed to digitally ink. The pencil tool is pretty cool for that too, because you end up with like these very solid black and white areas because of the aliasing. And again, on screen, it'll look a little step laddery, but when you print it out, it'll look like the most crisp and clean edge you've ever seen. And that's because it is perfectly crisp and clean. It's an aliased line. So, and I feel like earlier in this video, I might have mixed up the word alias and anti-alias, but I don't know. Sort it out yourselves, guys. Because I think I was saying aliasing when I meant to say anti-aliasing earlier. And Gaz said I always use the brush tool to ink. Yeah, the brush tool is okay, but I mean, like for instance, I used a brush on these lines because I wanted it to look like pencil. But if I want it to be like solid black and white, I want aliased lines. And I even, when I traditionally ink, if I scan my inks, I will clean them up to the point where they are completely aliased. So if you zoomed in on like, you know, the artwork, the line art that's black and white, it's literally just like an aliased step ladder. But each has their own look, you know, and it's less and less important to kind of do that. It used to be fundamental, but printing technology's gotten so much better that it can do a lot better with kind of like a little bit of gradient on the edge of your lines. Jake said hand cam. Yes, I have a hand cam. It's for you, Jake. Specifically for you. That's right. Jake Pfister's joining us in the chats. Jake, how is the internet sabbatical going for you? I hope it's going well. Jake took a brief break from the interwebs. We still have to deselect this the skeleton and these things up here. Now, if I get to the point where I'm getting kind of bored of these selections, what I'll do is just fill with another color. Maybe I'll return back to the whites or whatever. But right now my patience is still there to kind of reduce this out and play the long game. But will I get through all the white areas of the page? I don't know. I might get bored. That's the tough part about this strategy is the strategy does not feel like progress, even though it is. Jake said honored, and he said so I'd say. All right, so we are isolating the white on the page. And isolating out the skeleton. Skeletons are super fun. We had a whole conversation about body worlds the other day and kind of the ethics of skeletons. The kind of dubious origins of like a live skeleton. It was an interesting conversation. A little creepy. I should save that, like a part 2 of that for like a Halloween thing. You know, that seems like more of a Halloween conversation. Okay, we are going to pick this. And I'm going to just halfway it. I'm going to fill this with magenta because I need to take a very quick break. So we'll do magenta. And we'll continue this in a bit. So I'm going to play a trailer for Jacob's Apartment. Yeah, so we'll play the trailer for Jacob's Apartment, and I'll be right back. Speak clearly, it seems that only in dreams can we be these things we've seen and walk around. At the Sorry, and we will do one more trailer for 2 stories, and then we'll rock the rest of this stream. Okay. All right, so here we go. Driving You Mad said that skeleton is very detailed, nearly anatomically correct as far as I can tell. We have, my sister-in-law has a fully articulated skeleton replica that she got when she worked at an art supply store. And so she got it for cheap because it's like in parts. Some of the things are broken on it. So we had to kind of duct tape it all together and make it work for photo references and stuff. But that was super helpful in getting the skeleton to be super accurate. It's kind of like the trick in a lot of illustration where how do you get a skeleton looking fully articulated? You observe it from life. And so in this case, there were a lot of photo references where we're propping up a skeleton for these scenes, which will get complicated for the next page because there's like dancing with the skeleton coming up. Spoiler alert. How's everybody's Sunday going? Jake also said a family member passed away and I realized how dumb I've been cutting off things entirely. I'm sorry about your loss. I've lost family members myself, and that is never easy. Although your observation is pretty keen, like it does help you. It's not a positive thing at all, but the one thing that comes when you have like a close person in your life pass away, you definitely do appreciate the people and the connections that you have around you a lot more, I think. Because yeah, this whole time here is pretty limited. So you definitely it definitely makes you consider the time that you have. Not to get super dark or anything on the stream, but I just want you to know you're not alone. And I think I used to joke, because my father passed away. This might seem inappropriate, but I used to joke, I just have a head start on everyone. Meaning like everyone's gonna at some point, lose a parent or a loved one. And so, yeah, that's one of the crappy things about being on this planet. But anyhow, on a lighter note, skeletons. Speaking of skeletons, if you guys like skeletons, you should check out Bone Meal by Jake Twister. It is skeletons all over the place. It's a fun comic. Jake is a really interesting, observant, and fascinating guy. I always enjoy talking to Jake. All right, so we have, but I also understand the time off from the internet. I think I got into this on the last 2 streams, but I took about 4 months away from streaming and YouTube and social media. Other than Artcasters. Artcasters shall not ever stop because I like hanging out with Scott and Corey. That's the honest reason. I think we do Artcasters like partially at this point for like self-promotion and, you know, getting to interview creators that we like or creators that we want to know more about. But I think the biggest reason we do Artcasters is really we like the community and we like hanging out, you know. Yeah, Jake said I got ahead mentally preparing with bone meal way before it occurred and felt quite elated it was over. To see the piece face to face. That's another thing. I mean, sometimes it's like the alleviation of the experience is like almost like a gift rather than a you know, a curse, because like if you see somebody suffering for too long, it's like it can be kind of relieving to see them not have to, you know, not have to do that anymore, not have to be in pain. Driving You Mad said, good reasons, only do it if you enjoy it. I don't know which thing that's referring to. But I would say I've been thinking about determinism. I talked about this a little bit on the last stream. But it's like I have been wondering a lot lately, like how, and you know, this is going to be recapping a bit of what I said, but I do wonder how much, you know, because I kind of enjoy art, but there's a part of me that like I'm just gonna do comics. Like I can't not do comics. And I've talked to a lot of cartoonists that it's kind of the same thing where it's like a lot of us actually don't even really enjoy comics. Maybe we enjoy comics, but like the process just kind of sucks and it's not fun, but we just kind of do it. Like we're just wired to make comics. There's something about comics that like touched a part of our soul or something where it's just like, I'm just going to make comics. Like I can't not make comics. If I were on a desert island, I'd make comics. It's a weird thing. And I wonder how much of that is like genetic and predisposition that is outside of our own choice. I am curious about that because I have definitely had times where I'm like, I don't even like doing this. Why do I do it with comics? And then there's days like today. Like today, I'm really enjoying the process. The last like month or so, I felt really blessed to be able to have the time and have a book deal and like have all this great stuff. And I've really been enjoying the process. There is something meditative and great and purpose-driven about having a comic that I love. But it alternates, you know, and it's an interesting thing. It's like, what is it about me and other people I know that just kind of keeps us doing this thing? That, you know, honestly is kind of rough on our lives. It takes a lot of time. It's not all, you know, all happy. And yet, like, we all choose to do it. And so it's kind of an interesting thing where I do wonder sometimes. I do think there are some people who are just, like, predisposed to do certain things. Same thing with, like, coding. It's like, again, I could probably learn coding, but I don't know if I have the aptitude or fortitude or interest to really sustain learning coding, you know? But I think there are some people who are just like, it's like they're built for it. Like, and that's not to take away their efforts or their work, but it's an interesting thought of like, how much choice do we have in the matter, you know? Yeah, Jake said, I've gelled with that thought too, and think conscious or unconscious habits we surround ourselves with cause deterministic outlooks. That's interesting. And then Gary said, there's definitely an intensity level we approach things that most people don't seem to feel the need to match. Yeah. And it's like, not all things. Like, I don't feel this intensity about a lot of guy stuff. Like, I don't like stuff that maybe like would benefit my life if I did, you know, like I wish I was a little better with like plumbing and like, you know, like car stuff, like working on cars, and like I wish I had a little more of that intensity for other things, but for some reason it's just comics. It's like comics bring something out of my soul that a lot of things don't. And I don't know how much of that's my choice. You know, that's the weird part. I don't know. Or was it a choice? You know, there's also the possibility, you know, it's a choice you make early on. And once you've kind of committed, it's kind of like a marriage, you know, where you just are like, well, we chose to be married. We're going to be, you know, in this, in sickness and in health, till death do us part. You know, I'm married to comics. It's interesting. I don't know. I also can hear in the background, my son has been doing this. He's really into Mario. And he does this like Mario voice, like, let's go, you know. And he'll also kind of do like nonsense Italian almost. And I just overheard him like in the background being like, a pizza doing this, which I don't want to sound racist or anything. I thought that was funny that in the background I'm hearing this like, let's go patata. And I'm like, patata? Like, what language are you speaking, Ben? Anyhow. So we've had an interesting Sunday here. My wife is resting. My son is playing in his room. She's resting because she's got a headache. And understandably so. She's been working on like, you know, 7 children's books while also being like a full-time mom. And that's a lot. Anytime I feel bad, I feel whiny about my 200-ish page, like 230-page graphic novel that feels impossible, I look at her work task list and I feel a little better. Because I'm like, wow. I don't know how she's doing it, you know? Okay. Some person chimed in and said, whatever you believe, it's a soul that wants to try something else or influences from early life. Well, I definitely believe in a soul. But it's interesting because I still don't even know if that's the case. I wonder how much is just kind of predetermined. How much is written in your soul before you make a choice? How much? And I think you need to be a bit stoic in life in general. And part of stoicism is like sort of accepting that like you have full control over everything. Like you can control your emotions, you can control and be rational and logical and stoic, right? And I think that's a really good way of navigating the pitfalls and the twists and turns of life and the ups and downs, and also helps you make good decisions. But as I talked on the last stream, I don't know. I can't say if that's just something I want to think about choice, and that in reality, maybe choice is just something that, given the circumstances I was in, that choice was something I had to make. Like I literally cannot make a different choice. Today, if I randomly scratch my nose, and it seems like a random act because I had an itchy nose for 5 seconds, how much of that was my choice to scratch my nose, and how much of that was all of the circumstances and genetics driving that choice? And if anyone else was in that same boat, they would still scratch their nose at that exact second, at that exact instant. It's an interesting thing. Like I said, I think for society to function, we have to believe in something beyond determinism, because we have to have a society where people feel like there are ramifications for making bad decisions, which I think we all like that idea of like, there should be consequences for people making bad choices. We want to incentivize good choices. We want to believe that we have the ability to make good choices. So I think we should stay there, like in the sense of like law or social decisions or anything like that. Like we need to at least, even if it's an illusion, we need to kind of embrace that illusion of choice, just for things to function. But it is a little scary and possible. I think it's very possible that we may have absolutely no choice in anything. Now, will I live my life believing that? No, because I like the idea of having choice. I like the freedom that I believe I have to make ethical decisions about how I run my life. But still, it's a fascinating thing. And I have heard, as I said on a stream previously, I've heard some pretty compelling arguments that, and some compelling science that really supports the truth of determinism. And it's bizarre because it also kind of supports the truth of choice. And how people navigate those two is a really weird thing, where it's like very strange. Because you kind of can't have both, but you kind of have to. It's a little weird. Gary said, lately I do tend to subscribe to the belief that if you were made with my body and my life experiences, you would react precisely as I would in any given situation and vice versa. I agree. Jake said, Driving You Mad said, Jake, perhaps my view is agnostic. Driving You Mad also said, faith or politics are merely a lens through which we view life. True, I think some lenses are a little more skewed than others, but it's definitely true. And then Gary said, thus people basically behave the only way they possibly can in any given scenario. Yeah, I agree. But I think for law and for society, we can't say that, even though it's true, which is weird. It's just like a weird thing. We have to all play pretend that we have a real choice, even though we may not. That's my latest kind of take on things. Some person said it could be it has a list of things to try out and what feels best sticks. It could be how you want to eat something different. Yeah, but like, anyhow, yeah, Gary said that's not a justification or excuse for anything. It's just an explanation. That's exactly what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying it's great. I'm not saying it excuses any behavior. But I am just saying that it does look like that's what it is. Oh, man. Anyhow, but I'm no like physicist or anything like that. I just or really I'm no like philosopher. I'm like an armchair philosopher. But I will say, from what I've read, I think Gary's right. And even though we don't have a choice, we have to pretend we have a choice. And I think philosophically for ourselves, we have to always accept that there's always a choice, even if there is none, which is bizarre. And I think this is an old conversation too, so I don't think I'm being all profound or anything. It's like an old conundrum, right? And it goes across a lot of belief systems. In Christianity, it's like predestination versus free will, right? That's the thing in Christianity. I believe in Buddhism, there's kind of like an argument about this. I know there definitely is in Hinduism, because it's like in Hinduism, you know, if we're mostly experiencing an illusion, and there's a higher reality that we're kind of separated from, like how much of this illusion can we be held responsible for? Because really, anyhow, so that's a whole thing. And I'm not going to totally articulate that perfectly, because again, I'm not like Hindu or anything, but I know that this conversation exists outside of science in a lot of different religions, but it also totally is heavy in philosophy right now, because determinism is kind of, from what I've read, it seems like that's kind of the thing now in philosophy. Like a lot of people really are struggling to disprove that that's the case. Not that a disproof proves a proof, right? Like, so there's that too. Driving You Mad said choice is an illusion. Yes. Jake said, Josh, how could we know if everything was determined could already be determined? That's the thing. It's kind of a that's why it's like a big conversation, because it's like it really is one of those things of like, well, what does it seem to be? And then that's definitely not something. It's like a lot of things in philosophy, where a lot of philosophy is unfalsifiable, so you can't treat it as like hard truth, because something unfalsifiable, it's just impossible to kind of, like I was saying, it's, people struggle with disproving it, but not being able to disprove something doesn't make it true, right? So oh my goodness, I think Dawkins, I don't know if it was I think Dawkins might have been quoting a different person, but Dawkins did have a really great statement about like a teacup in space, right? If you make the argument that there's like a teacup orbiting Jupiter, it's not on the person who's hearing this claim to disprove there's a teacup. Like, you couldn't disprove that, but it doesn't mean there really is a teacup. Like, it's bold claims require bold evidence, and the onus is on the person making the bold claims to prove the bold claims they're making. And I agree with that. Even as a Christian, I think we still need to be skeptical and be able to back bold claims, or or at least understand that the conversation about those bold claims is not a conversation of science, which I still agree with. Because, like, while I'm a Christian, I'm also not going to make the claim that that is a scientific claim, because I don't think that is a provable thing through science. I think there's a lot of things you need to kind of consider to arrive at that, what I believe is truth. But I think it's more of a philosophical conversation, and it's more of like a relational thing than a like hard science thing. I think people who pretend it's a hard science thing are really either intellectually being dishonest, or intellectually are just lacking a little bit. That's my take. I don't know. Not having a choice could also be an illusion. That's true. You guys, welcome to my art show. Everything is an illusion and you can't trust anything. How's your Sunday going? Man, when I ramble, it goes into weird territories. All right, I'm going to do some lips. And Jake Twister said, sorry, this is a hyper reality. That's right. That's right. Okay, so we have some lips to deselect. Yeah, I think about this stuff a lot. I've talked about my faith on this show, and I try not to like proselytize. I like, because honestly, I believe it's a relational thing. Like, I don't think I can force somebody to believe what I believe. I don't think I can convince them to believe what I believe. I honestly think at least according to the text that I believe, I think it really has to be like a personal thing, like a personal experience that a person has to have where they themselves are seeking it. And I don't think I can cause that to happen. All I can do is kind of talk about what I believe, and things are going to happen or they aren't. But it's not like me making some compelling, convincing argument is going to change somebody's entire faith system. That being said, I do think about this a lot because I see a lot of people kind of doing what I think is more damage than good, trying to be quote unquote apologists for my faith. Because I don't think being dishonest is a good way to be about things. And I see a lot of that, and I don't know if it's intentional. I try to think it's not intentional, but I see a lot of that with like young earth creationists kind of going out there, and they'll make any argument they can to try to convince people. And sometimes they'll make really dishonest arguments, and they may not even be aware of how like kind of shady the tactic of argumentation they're using is. But I've definitely seen that. And again, like, I'm not saying it's bad to be a young earth creationist. Be whatever you want to be. But on an effective strategy, I just don't know where the logic is in that, personally. Now, each person has their own thing, but for me, it seems like I don't know. Maybe it's just a pet peeve of mine, but it's like, don't be intellectually dishonest. And if you catch yourself being intellectually dishonest by accident, even if you're intending to be, just own it and be like, sorry, I was actually intellectually dishonest there. I didn't mean to be. But now that I hear, whatever you're saying, you're right. Like, I actually don't know that. Or you're right. Like, the evidence doesn't really point in that direction. Or you're right, carbon dating isn't an inaccurate form of dating, which is something I hear argued a lot. It's like, okay. Yeah. Anyhow, and something I consider a lot, just not even in my belief, but just in general. And if you guys have other stuff you want to talk about in the chats, let me know. If I'm heading into territory where you're like, dude, this is a boring conversation, let's talk something else, it's fine. But yeah, like yeah, I don't know. I just see people double down on really dishonest arguments because they're embedded in a point of view, and unnecessarily so for their point of view to really hold up. That's the part that's weird about it, But when I'm approaching something, I'm honestly trying not to make a straw man of the oppositional viewpoint from what I have. In politics, in philosophy, and everything. Like, I want to have the best argument that I disagree with. I want to know that what is the best argument that is presented for this thing that I fully disagree with, because that's going to form my opinion better. But if I like just make some cartoon of oppositional viewpoints when I approach them, then I do myself the disservice of really learning my own viewpoint. And then I'm preaching to the choir. And that's not fun. I don't know if that makes sense. Okay, I am deselecting hands. And I am tamping my desire to play Risk until this page is flatted. But man, I enjoy playing Risk. I don't know why I've been enjoying it so much, guys. Let's see here. Jake said a lot can be changed and commanded through humor for better or for worse. I agree. I agree with that. That's a very good point. Humor is very strong and powerful, and humor is a really good sign as to whether a person you're dealing with is a lunatic or not. In my opinion, people who have no humor, to me, if there's no humor in you, I am concerned. Like I'm gonna be a little skeptical. Don't get me wrong, like people can be kind of straight and like less silly about things, but if somebody has no sense of humor, I very quickly am like, what is wrong with this person? Intellectually too, I really am skeptical of that person if you don't have humor. I don't know. I would assume some other stuff's missing too. Driving You Mad said a lot of what we say can manipulate people. You have to be careful in the ways we do that. I agree. And then Jake was asking if I've read As a Cartoonist by Noah Van Sciver yet. No, I haven't. I really want to. I love his work. I also want to get the one on Joseph Smith that he did too recently, because I think both of those look incredible. And that's one of those things that I love Noah's work, so I'd love to kind of check that out. And then Driving You Mad said maybe dishonesty isn't that bad as long as it doesn't affect people in negative ways. But honesty is always the best policy. I think, I'm not one of those people who believes in complete unfiltered truth, because I think that there's definitely a place for maybe somebody had a hard day and that's not the day they need to hear that they're overweight, right? Which might actually be true, but it's like there's tact with truth. Like I think truth needs to be mixed with consideration and tact. So I'm not I love truth. I love unfiltered honesty, but I think there needs to be a bit of a filter in the way we approach presenting truth. Like to people embedded in a cult, for instance, like you don't want to hit them hard with the truth, because if you hit them hard with the truth, you might actually lose that connection with that person. So it's like a really fine balance of kind of presenting truth to someone in a patient and loving way. And people are going to be way more willing to hear truth from people they like and care about than from like some random person with a megaphone on a street corner yelling mean things at people. Let's see here. Going to deselect this face and then I will get back to chat. But I need to make progress on this comic. That is the main goal of this stream, other than hanging out and having cool conversations. Let's see. Driving You Mad said there's a lot of oppositional viewpoints in my area of work, healthcare. Understandable, yeah, of course. Oppositional viewpoints are a good thing. And I think the danger, in my mind, I know I'm in a bad area, at least to me, intellectually, I think I'd be in a bad area if I am not willing to hear or consider an oppositional viewpoint. However, I also want to say not all oppositional viewpoints are worthy of equal consideration. So there's that too. Like while I might hear somebody claim the earth is flat, and maybe that's worth consideration for a few minutes, kind of go, let's see what they have to say. And then let's see why what they have to say is very provably false. And then I don't have to engage that thought all the time. There are certain arguments that have a little more weight and validity to them, is my only point. But let's never get so embedded that you won't consider an opposing viewpoint, even a wild one sometimes. But that doesn't mean you have to give equal consideration to absurd claims. Like I was mentioning about the teacup example is a really good example. Somebody makes a wild claim, they should have evidence. And compelling evidence, right? Let's see here. We have hands being deselected now. And then we got Jake saying we ought to thank those that do a terrible job to inspire others to take the task that they slacked with. Ha! I kind of like that. The point being, like, if somebody does a terrible job, we should thank them for giving somebody else a job cleaning up their mess. Am I reading that right, Jake? There have been times in my professional life, and I wonder if Gary's had this too. I've had clients come to me at some point, especially when I was like maybe about 5 years into freelancing and professionally working as an illustrator and designer. And I'd have some clients come to me with like the worst design and illustration I had ever seen in my life, or the worst logo design I had ever seen. And there was a part of me that was like, thank you, sir. Thank you for doing that, because now I have your job. I've definitely had that. Gary said, right, I don't feel, yeah, Gary. So this was in regards to me saying, like, not all counter or oppositional claims are worthy of consideration. And he was saying, right, I don't feel a great obligation to fact check ancient apocalypse. Exactly. And then some person said, I listen to all sides and find they each have a point, but also have something wrong as well. People only look up some things while others they don't. A flat earther being wrong could also be an excellent chef. I agree with that. I know people. I actually know a flat earther who is a great person, but I don't believe them, and I think their arguments are insane. You know, like they are so provably false that I could have my son have a conversation with them and disprove them. And they are so embedded in their viewpoint that they wouldn't even be able to see that, like, an 8-year-old could argue against them and prove them wrong. And it's so clear. The logic to prove the roundness of the earth is so clear and concise that an 8-year-old can accept it and understand it. And these people have chosen to blind themselves to that basic of logic. So yes, but yes, they can be a good person. I'm not saying you can't be. You can't have. It's not like you're a bad person if you don't have logic. It's just that there are some things that are so illogical they're not worth consideration. Some person said, wait. Jake said, I read a terrible comic a few months ago and I got raging mad. I had to dedicate a whole book to undo that irritation. I couldn't let that treatment of a subject be undervalued for shock. So, Jake, are you talking about, I'm guessing you were talking about Jacob's Apartment. Jacob's Apartment got you so mad. Is that, am I reading that right, Jake? You were like, this book by Josh is so terrible. I'm going to dedicate an entire comic, I'm going to dedicate my life to destroying Josh. I think that's, I'm reading that right, Jake? Some person said Neil Adams, for example, Neil Adams has wild ideas. Doesn't mean he's a bad artist. Wild ideas Neil Adams has. Yeah. So I can take what's great about Neil Adams's art, and he's a much better artist than I am, but I don't have to take the expanding Earth theory seriously. Like I can look at it. I'll take a minute and kind of go, what's his claim? And then be like, okay, that's it. Yeah. Not saying it makes people bad people. I would rather be neighbors with somebody who is a wacky conspiracy theorist, but if I were in a car accident, would be there to help out and, help my family and help people around me and help our neighborhood be safe than I would with somebody who's completely logical and rational and an asshole. So I hope that I hope that makes sense. Some person. I feel like, treating people the way that you would like to be treated, the golden rule, all that stuff, that almost takes priority over logic. But I'm also a fan of logic, and I think it is important as artists to be attempting to observe truth, and logic can get you closer to the truth. But we're all trying to tell art about, right? We're all trying to tell stories that touch on something true. So yeah. But Neil Adams is an interesting. I mean, I think, I don't know. I feel like sometimes the experts are good to listen to. Neil Adams would be good to listen to about comics. Driving You Mad said Logic is a good rapper. And then Jake Twister said, now that I agree with. Oh, and then Jake Twister said, I don't remember Jacob's Apartment being about transhumanism and a school shooting. Okay, so different book. Got it. Then you missed the subtext, Jacob. I'm kidding. That would be funny though. It's like that's actually the subtext of Jacob's Apartment, that nobody understood it, but it's there. Okay, guys, it's been an hour and a half. This is my problem when flatting. When flatting, I do need to take a few more like step up breaks, because I will find my brain getting a little bit tired, right? And we're getting further. We're making progress. Everything that's magenta hasn't been flatted yet. Everything that's not magenta has. So we're basically doing Elizabeth's hair at this point. She's getting her hair done. She went to the hair salon, and I am losing patience with isolating flats. And so I'm going to step out for 2 seconds, and we will have an advertisement of sorts. And which one shall we play? Is there a preference, you guys? I really enjoy Jim's Jacob's Apartment thing. I feel like that would be really good. Jake Twister said Howard Chaykin would be proud of you doing ads like that. Thank you. Okay, I think I will play Wordzoid, because this is a great, like, I love all the contributions people have sent, but this is absolutely one of my favorites. So there we go.
Well, Peter, since I'm such a big music fan, I'm going to have to go with Karen Carpenter. Oh, Stu, I'm sorry. That's the incorrect answer. Trish, what you got for us?
I'm going to go with Kim Gordon.
All right, let's check that answer. Kim Gordon. Do we have a Kim Gordon? Yes, and that means you're our new Wordzoid champion, Trish. Dale, tell Trish what she's won. Trish, you've won a copy of 2 stories, a memoir of faith and mental illness. Handwritten, hand-drawn, and handed to you by artist and writer Joshua Kemble. But wait, that's not all. You've also won a copy of Jacob's Apartment, the story of a doomed romance. What happens when you take Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind and put it in a blender with Ghost World? You get Jacob's Apartment, written and illustrated by Joshua Kemble. Trish, thank you for playing Wordzoid.
All right, great job, Trish.
I was told I was gonna get a lifetime supply of paper towels.
Okay, and I'll open this so you guys get the audio of it. Okay, I'm going to have another mango cart, an IPA, or not an IPA, it's just a beer. I don't know why I called that an IPA. It's a wheat ale. That's okay. It's pretty good. It's a good go-to, very mild, mango flavored. I enjoy it, and it's Sunday. And I'm flatting. I have to make it entertaining. This flatting is, for any of you guys, like if any of you guys really enjoy the process of flat coloring, I would recommend talking to a counselor, because it is dull. Okay. Here we go. We are going to continue on the journey of flat colors. And this process is the only thing about the process that I've chosen to do this book in that is a lot more tedious than it would have been if I was traditionally inking this. Flatting traditional inks is much quicker than flatting, because you can use the selection tools and very quickly just kind of expand your selection, couple pixels under the line, and then you've got like your fills, and boom, boom, boom. Flat colors are done pretty quick. Adam Lohr in the chat said, hey Josh, hey everybody. Hey Adam. We were talking about determinism, and what else? What else have we been talking about, chat? We have been talking about liking people who are intellectually honest. Even if they have wild opinions, it's okay to entertain those. So we talked about intellectual honesty, the importance of that. Some person said, I've heard colorists say they pay others to flat for them. Yes. Because the fun part of coloring is all the rendering. And this book I have done all in flat colors, much to my chagrin. And I am not a wealthy man, and so I am not going to pay somebody to make flat selections that I can damn well make for myself. Even if it's like $10 to have somebody else do it. Although the problem is, even flat colorists, if I tried to outsource this and have it flatted, I would be charged a lot more than somebody doing solid black and white inks, because like I said, solid black and white inks, the flatting process is kind of boom, boom, boom. You use selection tools. It's very quick. But the method that I've done this with the pencil lines, the flatting process is much more tedious. So it would cost me more to hire somebody to do. Jake said, gotta head out. See you all. See you, Jake. Thank you for the support. And Jake, OG Night Gang member. Don't forget to front the Night Gang everywhere you go today, Jake. Okay? Remember, you're part of the gang, man. You did the initiation. You're in. Okay? Just remember that. If anyone messes with you, be like, you don't know the Night Gang, man. You don't know. You don't know these people. We need to come up with, I don't know if we have a gang sign. If anyone wants to come up with like a hand signal that signals are, I mean, it's not night right now, so I guess technically it's not Night Gang. But my point is, Frank Salazar made a nice little Night Gang logo that I need to pull on to stream at some point. But we need a hand sign. We're not really a proper gang without that. But we also need to be careful that our hand sign isn't an actual gang hand sign, so we don't get killed by rival gangs. You know what I'm saying? All right. I also think we should adopt switchblade combs. Just a comb that looks like a switchblade. Pull it out, you're like, what are you talking about? And then you go slick back your hair. Switchblade combs will make a comeback very soon. All right, now we're going to do Elizabeth's jacket. Some person said I'd find a way to duplicate the selection and put it on the next panel and then change a few things. I love it. If you find that way, tell me. I also missed a white selection, which is where I like this method a lot. I also am a nerd and I work in CMYK. I want you guys to know that. There's been a long argument between CMYK versus RGB, working in RGB, then translating it for and then modifying it to CMYK later on. I've heard compelling arguments for both, but I am very much in the CMYK camp, baby. That's right. I am CMYK all the way. At work, I work mostly in Pantones because of the medium that we work in. But on my personal art, when I'm able to pull out those CMYK sliders, I am in heaven. CMYK is my I got about 100M, 10K, I'd say 20K, 100M, 0C, 100M, 0Y, and like about 20K going through my veins. That's what I got. All right. And when I'm at work, I got Pantone 187 flowing through my veins. That's where I'm at. All right. Two different blood types. Okay. So we are going to make the sweater selection. And if you want, while you're listening, just think of the sweater song. Because I really don't want to destroy her sweater, okay? I don't. I want her to have a beautiful, beautiful sweater. Oh, Adam with the hand signals. Night Gang represent. Hand pink waving. That's right. I find a way to duplicate. Oh, we already went through that. I was about to duplicate my reading of your duplication of the selection. So we're all caught up in chats. That's good. As I'm doing these things, I do try to really pay attention to you guys because I enjoy it and it leads to really interesting conversations. How is everybody? How is your personal work going? And what's your 5-year plan? I'm just kidding. You don't have to tell me your 5-year plan. This isn't a job interview. Okay. All right. Oh, you guys, flat coloring. Why? Okay. Save. We'll go in here and deselect this color. So yeah, I don't know why determinism's been so interesting to me lately. I definitely know that my patience. This is an interesting thing about getting older too. I love entertaining ideas, but my patience for somebody being very intellectually dishonest is like zero now. Where it's like, and I think we've all been there, where you're watching somebody who maybe even is on your political side or your philosophical side, and you're hearing them say something where you're like, you are being so disingenuous. Like you're not even representing what I think well, and you claim to think what I think. I think that's actually more infuriating to hear somebody make a dishonest argument in favor of something you agree with than it is to hear somebody make a dishonest argument about something you disagree with. But if they're like actually making an argument for something you agree with, but they're just being so dishonest about it, that it almost like poisons the well. Like it poisons the well of the idea because it's like, oh, now I can't even claim that idea. Or if I claim that idea, people are going to group me with this idiot claiming that idea. I don't know if you guys have ever had that. I've definitely had that. It's pretty easy with my life philosophy. It's very easy for me to have that because there's a lot of dishonest actors, and very clearly dishonest actors. Like they'll do like the spaghetti at the wall argument method where it's just like, well, what about this? And it's like disproven. Oh yeah, well, what about this? And it's disproven. Well, what about this? And then they cycle back to the thing that was just disproven. Yeah, it's maddening. It's maddening. Madness. Madness, darling, it's madness. That was me quoting Madness. You guys remember Madness, the band? Two-tone, ska record label. Yeah, I was bummed. So we had an Artcasters episode a while ago where my friend Lonnie Millsap, who's a New Yorker cartoonist, he's brilliant. The last Artcasters episode, I was like super sick, and so I wasn't able to go on it. And I was so bummed because during that episode, Lonnie had to defend ska from a scoffing group of people who are not really big on ska. And he was like, the English beat. And he's like, bringing up all these great examples. And I remember listening to it after the night where I wasn't able to make it and just feeling that like weird thing where you're like listening and you're like, man, I need to be in this conversation. I need to back my guy up here. Like, there's some great ska bands. Like, are you kidding me? I mean, I get it. There's also really annoying ska bands. And ska is like some ska is like a very like, weird stage of life kind of stuff. But there's some great ska. Like Toots and the Maytals. Like, is somebody seriously going to tell me they don't like Toots and the Maytals? Anyhow, so that was interesting. We are almost done with Elizabeth. So this is where it starts kind of having a little bit of exponential growth on this method. Very irritating. It takes a while, but the further you get in it, like the quicker it goes. And then you're like done with your page quicker than you would have been going like panel by panel. But it is a very like slow build, exponential growth kind of thing. And it is very irritating to flat colors in this way. So if you need to just to like keep yourself invested and interested in the process, do it a different way. I don't blame you. But this is a very quick way. Driving You Mad said ska is white people reggae. I think the sad part is you got to look into it because ska predates reggae. So there's that. So weirdly, it might be the reverse. But modern ska, like third wave, is definitely like white people music for sure. It's awful. Face orange raised eyebrow, face green smiling. Well, like I said, Toots and the Maytals. You know, they were a ska band. You got oh my gosh, Desmond Decker, right, and the Israelites. These guys were the foundation of reggae, and they were ska bands. And Bob Marley considered himself a ska musician when he started. So just I don't know, the statement that like reggae has any sort of primacy over ska like indicates to me maybe the understanding of ska, you're thinking like 90s ska, which is a totally different thing. But yeah, like old school ska is like amazing music. It's really cool. It's very like jazzy and awesome. But what I knew, I'm a nerd. You know, I'm a cartoonist. I could be like Neil Adams. I could be just, I mean, who knows? I have like wild theories, and I don't know. I just draw stuff, guys, and talk while I'm drawing. Okay. Yeah, Adam was saying, wasn't the first ska music by Jamaican artists? Yeah, 100%. Desmond Decker, check him out. Again, like the Israelites, like they played with Bob Marley for a while. But like it was like a whole trend in Jamaica, and then it only really became popular in the US in like the late 70s, I think. Yeah, that's why I was like, when I heard that episode of Artcasters, I was like, let me on. Like it was like watching a game when you're on the bench. You're like, let me in, coach. Let me go take on this team. I the next time Lonnie is ever on Artcasters, I need to be in that episode. Not only that, but Lonnie's just a really good dude. Whose name notoriously gets misspelled almost every convention he does. To the point where he makes it like kind of a meme on his social media. Because people always add like 3 L's or 2 S's. It's really interesting, the amount. So like the whole Joshua Kemble thing that happened to me at a convention, that happens to Lonnie all the time. Where his last name Millsap is like always, you know, Millzap or Millsip, or like they just never they never get it right. And it's bizarre because he's a pretty big cartoonist now, you know? I mean, he's in the New Yorker like a ton. And they still get his name wrong. For me, like misspelling my name, like who the hell am I? Like, why would they know any better? Kemble's a weird name, you know. Why wouldn't it be Kremble? After all, that's like my evil alter ego. But for him, it's a weird one. Driving You Mad said Kremble? Yeah. So when I did Toronto Comics and Arts Festival, TCAF, I did a panel on neurodiversity in comics, and it was a perfect panel to be on. But like all their marketing material, including in the panel booklet, said Joshua Kemble. And It was hilarious. Driving You Mad said, do you feel that any modern band should be producing ska music at this time? I think if they're doing very traditional ska, yes. I think it's a beautiful form of music. I think if they're doing like ska punk stuff, no. Personally, my own tastes, probably not. Now, am I like seeking out like modern ska bands? No. I kind of dig back a lot with ska. Like when I listen to ska again, it'll be like stuff like Toots and the Maytals, but it's like I'm not like seeking out a lot of new ska. But I wouldn't rule it out. I don't think it's an interesting form of music. The timing on it is really interesting. And it can be really good. And it can also just be really fun. Like it's good music to have on if you're just like partying or on vacation or just trying to relax. Yeah. All right, guys, we are deselecting Robert's face, and I'm realizing right now I shouldn't have started with his flesh tone. I should have started with his hair because that would be easier with the method I'm using. But that's okay. We're on this train and it's moving. And Ben just did the Italian accent again, and he said something frittata. It's kind of funny to hear in the background. All right. My interest in this page is slowly waning. It's such a patience game. Like, this is what I mean by like, is comics even a choice? This is really not fun. And yet I really like doing it. But like this right now feels, as I'm doing it, like pulling teeth. But the results are so worth it, I think. Okay. I really do want to get through this entire page on stream. That's my goal. But as it gets closer to dinner, I might have to take a dinner break. So we shall see. Oh, I think I read this, but if I didn't, Adam said, people sometimes think my name is Adam Love since the R sometimes looks like a V. I think Adam Love is like, that just sounds like a bad 90s DJ. Like, my name's Adam Love. Welcome to Adam Love's Love Shack or something. Like, you need to do a whole live stream as Adam Love. And Adam Love would wear like Elvis glasses. For sure, like the big gold Elvis glasses. And as you're streaming, there would be like a luxurious like silk bed sheets or something. Like there would be something ridiculous in the background that's very like, my name's Love and I'm here to talk about love. That kind of thing. What do you think, Adam? My persona is Kemble, who's like an evil I don't know, I almost like view Kemble just sounds like a curmudgeon-y kind of Grinch type character, you know, who's just kind of like definitely got some bitterness and some evil Kremble stuff going on. But Adam Love sounds like, you know, you need 70s music, 70s slow soul music in the background, and you need to have like a real deep, like Barry White type voice, and talk about everything you say would have to sound like super suggestive, but like smooth, you know. I think that's a good alternate persona. I almost feel like if you had a non de plume, like if you were ever tempted to have a non de plume as an artist, that would be a funny side hustle name where you're like, you make all pinup art as Adam Love. I don't know, dude. I'm trying to work with it here. We'll see. We're deselecting this. Yeah, exactly. He said, I did used to use Adam Love as a stage name for music projects. And he said, that's hilarious. And then like Tim Meadows, the ladies' man on SNL. Exactly. Gary, I'm not sure what this one is. Are they though? I'm not sure. I feel like that's the downside of like chat and the time, where I don't know which one that referred to. I'm sure that had something to do with a ska thing of some kind. Driving You Mad says, can you give the male character an earring, like a cross on a chain, maybe? I was kind of joking about that yesterday. Like last night on stream, I was kind of like going through my art process, and then I was like, and then I'll add a mustache. And I just started drawing like a curly, evil mustache on Elizabeth Barrett Browning. And it would have been so hilarious, except that I broke and laughed. But it would have been great to just do a stream where it starts off as like a normal page, and then you just start doing absurdities to the art, you know, where you're like, and this is where his eyebrow ring goes and his nose tattoo. And you never break character, acknowledge that, you know, you've just done something absurd. So whenever I do that stream, which I do want to do on stream at some point, but I want only the people who've listened to streams before to be the people in the know, so they'll know what I'm doing. But anyone else is just going to be like, what the hell is this channel? Comics are so worth it, though, said Gary. Oh, yeah, got it. When I was saying comics are so worth it, I got it. Yeah, are they? Are they really worth it? Yeah, the journey is the process. Is it? The journey is the goal. No, it's not. The result is the goal, and I hate the journey. It's a really annoying journey. Frodo hated the journey. Everybody brings up Lord of the Rings as if like, well, Frodo, blah, 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 with the... Yeah, but he had to go through like Mordor and like have a hellish experience, and in the end chooses to pretty much die because he's done with humanity. He's burnt out, and he's just like, you know what? I'm going to go chill in like this weird fill-in spot for heaven because I'm done with people and stuff and things because that journey sucked. That's what I think, at least today, about the journey is the destination. No, it's not. No, the destination's the destination. The journey sucks. You just kind of have to grit your teeth and get through the journey. Is that negative of me? Maybe. Maybe today, because I'm flat coloring, I'm feeling really negative about comics. Do you guys ever have that? Like when you're in a certain stage of the process of art where you're just like, you know, almost like over dramatically silly about it, where you're just like, man, this sucks so bad. I hate art. You know? And it's like, I know it's going to come out good. I know where it's going, and I just wish it would get there faster. I'm like, you know, like I know where I'm heading here. I know where the direction is, and I just don't want to have to do every single step of this journey. Can we just skip Mordor and go to the end where everybody's happy? Now, this part of the stream is going to sound really ridiculous if you're a person who's going through like real life struggles, you know, because it's like, oh, I have to flat color a page. For me. And it's like, meanwhile, somebody's like, look, I had my leg amputated yesterday. Flat coloring's okay, but leg amputation, that kind of sucked. You know? Man. I think that's a food delivery. Driving you mad said, Josh, you're pretty funny when you're frustrated. Thank you. That's the dogs telling the delivery guy, like, how dare you come to our door? How dare you, sir?
The hellhounds have gotten upset.
I feel like if the dogs had like gauntlets, they would just be throwing them all the time. They'd be like, I challenge you, sir. And you. How dare you? All right, guys, that is our dinner. So I might go. Let me see. Yeah, I think this is a good pausing point. So I will be back on stream. Yeah, Adam, I agree with you. Where Adam's saying, like, why would anyone choose to do this? It's so much work. Why do we do this to ourselves? It's because of determinism. We have no choice. We were always going to choose comics. There's no escaping it. If we could have escaped it, we'd be out of it already. That's my recent theory. All right, guys, I am going to go eat some food. Gary said, I'm done for the day. Paige done and taking the rest off. Hell yes, Gary. Gary is really, really close to completing the next D versus M. And he's been working on it like a maniac. And it's nice to see his progress coming and stuff like that. But I am going to go eat, and then I will be back streaming a little later tonight. I appreciate oh no, Philip just came in. Not oh no that you came in, but just that's a bummer. I'm rapping and Philip's here, but I'll be on later. So if you guys enjoy these streams, make sure you've hit subscribe, hit the bell so you get notifications when we're about to go live. And I will be back on live in about an hour. So I'm going to eat some food and then get back at it because this page is not going to color itself. All right, guys. I will have a good. I was going to say I will have a good night, but I should be saying you guys have a good night. And I'll see you guys if you're around in about an hour. Thank you so much for all the lively chat, and really appreciate you guys. I appreciate this community, and I will see you guys in an hour or so. Have a good Sunday. If I don't see you in an hour, have a good Sunday and a good creative end of your weekend. All right, bye, guys.